Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is safe. What is it like to feel safe? And what would our lives be like if we really felt safe? What risks, what risks might we take? What ways might we stand up and express ourselves? um, what would be different in our lives. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, ladies. Good morning, Robin. Good morning, Rosalind. So wonderful to have you joining us. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today, we're talking about safe, feeling safe. And what would that mean, or what does it mean? How are we better able to express ourselves when we feel safe, versus when we're on guard or constantly calibrating the environment, being vigilant about the pending threats, being prepared, et cetera, et cetera. So we've talked a lot about limbic system lately, and the limbic system is the system that really controls the fight, flight, freeze, feed kinds of responses to stressors and threats in the environment. And when we feel safe, our nervous system relaxes. When our nervous system relaxes, we have a greater capacity to think more broadly. What happens when we're in threat is literally our vision narrows and we're focused on the threat. And when we feel safe, we can relax. We can see more broadly. We can see a bigger picture. We can perceive connections. We can be more present to ourselves in that sense of safety. And so when we have that safety, it enables us to express our essence more readily, partly because we can actually sense our essence. We're not outwardly focused trying to monitor threat. We're in kind of a communion instead, perhaps, where there's an exchange rather than a bracing. And so the question is, how do we cultivate this sense of safety, especially in a world where we have pretty constant kinds of reinforcements about the dangers that await us in any moment. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome. So good to have you join us. Welcome. We're talking about safety and feeling safe and how we cultivate that. And so we're culturally conditioned in many ways to believe that it's a dangerous world. And we can find lots and lots of justification to have that belief, to hold that belief that there's danger at every turn. Just tune into the news, right? You can see where there's danger, or so many of our television programs are stories of crime and danger all over everywhere, right? So in the face of that, how do we cultivate safety? And the thing that has been monumental for me in shifting my beingness around safety has been to be adopting and exploring and digging into more and more deeply the notion that life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. And so when we take that perspective, it doesn't mean that we're not going to encounter difficulties or heartbreak or pain. And it creates a larger context, a larger container through which all experience can then be interpreted. So when quote unquote bad things happen, if we can allow that life is happening for me and through me rather than to me, rather than me being at the effect of life, then there's a deeper sense of being held by life, being in collaboration and partnership with life. And that ultimately it's for us, for our growth, for our development, for our intentions, for our greater expression. So Rosalind says, asking self questions like, am I safe now? What is the fear? Helps diffuse or create distance from an issue. So curiosity helps open rather than narrow perspective. 100%, Rosalind. Curiosity is one of the keys. And curiosity is also an antidote for judgment. And when we're curious about something, what happens is judgment falls away and we are expanding our view. We're thank you for that. That's exactly true. And so we can ask ourselves in this moment, am I okay? Most often, even in the midst of upset, we can say, am I okay in this moment? Even when there's an injury, for instance. Most of you know that I broke my wrist on Christmas. It's doing pretty well, by the way. Pretty cool, right? It's not just over a month. So lots of recovery. Still doing physical therapy and all that stuff, but lots of recovery. And it's been a really interesting process. But even in the moment when I broke my wrist and I was standing by my electric bike that was on the ground. I don't even know how I got it up. I don't know how I ended up on the ground exactly. But anyway, you know, I knew my wrist was broken. And even in that moment, I knew I was okay. And my wrist was broken, but I was okay. And so we can presence ourselves in the midst of fear, even fear, pain, upset. We can presence ourselves to say, am I okay? And the question, am I safe now? That's a challenging question because we have all kinds of ideas about what safety is, right? Okay somehow seems more generic and maybe easier to access, um, because again, we're very conditioned to perceive threat, right? So when we bring ourselves present, pretty much all the time, we're okay. And what makes us not feel okay is projecting forward, projecting backward, getting into creating stories about things, right? Like, what if I can't this? What if this happens? What if that happens? This always happened in the past. Now, this makes me remember the situation that was dangerous or damaging. We what we do is we be anywhere but here. So if we can be in the moment, there's magic in the moment. There's all the potential for pretty much anything in the moment. And yet, most of us spend most of our time elsewhere other than in this moment. So, presencing ourselves is one way to come into safety. And the question, am I okay in this moment? Like, really? Yes, I might have all these sensations, and yes, I may have um there's all this stuff going on, but right here, right now, am I okay? Is there a lion or a tiger attacking me in this moment? I'm right here, okay. And that can help. That can help. Another thing that can help us cultivate a sense of safety is using our breath to bring ourselves into presence, to just focus on your breath. And, that's an interesting thing too. I'm somebody who's had a history of asthma. So being able to focus on my breath hasn't always been the easiest thing. Like I could focus on my breath and notice that I'm having a hard time breathing. And then that itself could take me out of the moment, and I could be jumping into a story about how I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And the more you say I can't breathe, the more you can't breathe, from experience, at least over here. And so that's where curiosity comes in and is really helpful, is asking questions rather than, am I safe now? Asking questions like, what would it take to feel safe now? What would it take to be able to breathe now? What would it be like if I could breathe? What would it feel like if I did feel safe? Because when we ask these kinds of questions, our minds, our brains are like kind of like a heat-seeking missile. You give the brain a project and it's going to take it on. You ask a question, it's going to find an answer. If you ask a question like, why am I such a mess? You're going to get all kinds of answers and validation of, here, this is why you're such a mess. If you ask questions about, well, what is it? What does it feel like? What would I feel like if I felt safe? Your body is going to tell you. Your mind is going to tell you, well, your shoulders might be relaxed and you might relax your shoulders. So part of this is learning how to ask the right questions, or ask questions that are going to serve us, serve our intention. So Robin says the big words, what if? Claim your safety in the way you respond to the issue. So that's really what we're doing. We are claiming our safety. What if I felt safe? What would that be like? And curiosity engages our being on a level that is profoundly creative and generative. The thing is that most of us don't use it all that well. We'll go down the road. What if this bad thing happens? What if that bad thing happens? What would it be like if everything just collapses? That's where we put our attention, rather than what would it feel like right now to feel good. And as I said that, I just got a tingle up my spine. It's powerful. Just try it. Try it right now. What if I felt really joyful right now? What would it feel like in my body to feel joyful? I'm feeling surges of energy going up my back into my shoulders, just asking that question. Because our bodies and our minds are very responsive. We have this magical mechanism, dynamic system that we actually have tremendous input into. We've been talking a lot about how we get to shape our brains, and shaping our brains shapes our experience. And what if we took, 10 minutes, a half hour, an hour a day, asking these wonderful what if questions? What if I felt better today than I ever felt before in my life? What would that be like? How would my body feel? How would I stand? How would I walk and talk? And what kind of expression would I have on my face if I felt really good right now? Right? So Rosalind says, energetically creating an auric shield. In pranic healing, the patient continues to assimilate healing within, allowing negative or congestion to leave the body, and at the same time protects the person from absorbing negative energies. So like a porous shield that lasts about 3 days and can be re-energized. They teach us this when leaving a retreat, ways to cope with re-entry. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Many of us have attended wonderful events that are heart opening and spirit opening and mind opening, and then we go back into our lives around people that haven't had that shared experience, and it can feel very disorienting when you go from a space of elation and connection and openness to an environment that isn't cultivated in that same way. And so the question is, how do we re-enter? It's really interesting. I had a challenge with that after my month off, going across the country in my little Mini Cooper with my cat. And we drove from the East Coast to the West Coast and back. and visited with people, visited with new old friends, or people that I know but had only met online, for example. And coming back from that adventure, coming back from a very, very different context, there was a lot of reorientation. And um, I think that curating our energy, which I think is what you're talking about, Rosalind, curating our energy is a really important thing. Recognizing that we really are energetic beings, and we're exposed to all kinds of energies all the time. My approach, rather than wearing all kinds of protections and and putting up shields and all, my approach is, or my desire is, to be cultivating the strength from within, to be cultivating our own energy field, to be strengthening our own energy field, so that it is, by its own nature, this sort of semi-permeable membrane. And it's not a defense, but in so much as it's not mm, it's not like a shield kind of thing, but there, as our energy field is strengthened, it acts kind of as a repellent. If you think of magnets, for instance, and how magnets will repel each other when they're opposite poles. And I think as we strengthen our own field, that's actually what happens. Um, is that we attract like and we repel not like. And so maybe protections are really useful as we're in the process of building that strength and building that field. And somehow, like, when we talk about all these protections and putting up shields, and um, that's also in its way, if we don't do it consciously or from a place of wholeness, it can perpetuate the fear. It can deepen the fear, right? Because if this thing, this amulet or whatever, is my protection, and I don't wear it or something, then my belief is such that it's going to, that I'm endangered, right? But as we build our own wholeness, then that magnetic field works for me, right? I'm not putting up a magnetic field. I am a magnetic field, right? Attracting and repelling. And that's kind of the notion of the permeable or semi-permeable membrane. So Robin says, for someone on a new path, I understand setting the foundation of encountering fear to build a firm foundation and the frame shield for one's safe place and protection. Not everyone is on the path yet. Um, it's true. Not everyone is on the path yet, whatever the path is, right? Maybe we are. Maybe we're all on the path and it just shows up in different ways. And some of us are consciously on the path. And whatever the path is the path of of expression, the path of life expressing itself. Um, it's, I never would have imagined that I would still at this age be having new revelations about the workings of my being. It's funny, as a teenager, I never imagined that as an adult and now an elder, I would never have imagined that life would still present so many new and also not so new challenges and insights. And what I recognize now is that that's lifelong, that we don't ever arrive. I guess if we were to arrive, maybe that's what death is. That's when it's over. It ain't over till it's over, right? And so Rosalind says, like a cast, after it's removed, the form remains. After the strengthening is formed, the outer shell can be taken down. Yes, 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 like a cast. After it's removed, the form remains. After the strengthening is formed, the outer shell can be removed. Yes. So sometimes we need things to assist us, to strengthen us, to buoy our confidence and our well, our confidence. And then these things can fall away. The thing is that these things that we use to strengthen us can be things that we then rely on in such a way that they weaken us. It's kind of like how our strategies for survival that we cultivate often when we're young to survive in a very difficult atmosphere, eventually those things become restrictions and constraints and limits and sometimes deficits. And I've seen it over and over and over, not just in myself, but in people that I work with. So Robin says, basically for newcomers listening to your program, Our Journey, you're so sweet, Robin. You're very, very sweet. But becoming conscious, I'll tell you what, it takes courage. I acknowledge all of you for being willing to think about these things, to look at these things, to look at ourselves under these lenses, to try and raise our awareness and our consciousness. It's not a minor thing. It takes courage because it means going into uncertainty and into the unknown and being willing to create a greater malleability of mind and heart and spirit, and to be questioning things that are uncomfortable to question. So I just acknowledge you deeply for your curiosity, your willingness, your commitment, your courage. And with that, that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel and my Facebook page. And please, please go like and follow the YouTube channel for Enlightened World Network. And I would be so grateful if you do that for my YouTube channel as well. The links are in the description. And with so much gratitude and so much appreciation for you and the time that we get to spend together, that's it for today. And until next time, so much love.